Here at Greater Mount Kingdom Missionary Baptist Church here in Augusta, Georgia, where our pastor is the Reverend Dr. Victor R. Thomas. And today, our Sabbath school lesson today will be entitled Faith in the Power of God. Faith in the Power of God. And we'll be coming from the book of Isaiah, from the 40th chapter, verses 12 and 13. And then we'll skip down to verses 25 through 31. And the goal of Isaiah 40 is to offer words of comfort and hope and encouragement to a people who seemed they had the idea that their problems was bigger than God. And some of us today, we have that same understanding, we have that misunderstanding that our problems are bigger than God, and they are not. And so here we have Isaiah today. He reminds us that God, who created everything, is worthy of our trust, and that the Creator is the source and the strength, as we are reminded not to lose hope, but trust in the Creator, because He has given us the power to renew our strength. And all we have to do is just get connected with Him. And those verses from Isaiah 40th chapter, starting at the 12th verse, it reads, "Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breadth of his hand marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains of the scales and the hills in a balance? Who can fathom the spirit of the Lord, or instruct the Lord as his counselor? Whom did the Lord consult to enlighten him and taught him the right way? Who was it that taught him knowledge or showed him the path of the understanding?" That was the 12th through the 14th verse. And then our next verse is the 25th verse to the 30th verse, that read, "To whom will you compare me? Or who is my equal, says the Holy One? Lift up your eyes and look to the heavens. Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name. Because of his great power and mighty strength, not one of them is missing. Why do you complain, Jacob? Why do you say, Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord? My cause is disregarded by my God. Do you know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. The 29th verse reads, "He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary. The young men stumble and fall." And the final verse 31 says, "But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on the wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." Isaiah 40, verses 12 through 13, and verses 25 through 31. Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, the creator of all who is and all that once was and all that will be, we come before you today not with itchy ears, Lord, but with humble hearts and open minds, so that your words will fill us up, so that we may be provided hope to travel on in this land. We take comfort in knowing that your word stands forever, and it is you that provides comfort and strength when we become tired and weary. For it is in your holy name we thank you and we do pray. So this is a word that God had given through Isaiah and speaking through Isaiah, because the people had felt that God was not hearing them, that he wasn't aware of what they was what they were going through. And from a historical context, in Isaiah 40, it's situated within the Babylonian exile. The Babylonian exile, which began in 586 BC, when Nebuchadnezzar II, he destroyed Israel and Solomon's temple, and he enslaved the Hebrew people, which is also known as the Babylonian captivity. And this was the fulfillment of the Old Testament prophecy in Deuteronomy 28. Deuteronomy 28:1 says, Deuteronomy 28:1, it says, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. But they did not obey. They did not obey. And during this time, there was a lot of political rebellion as well as religious disobedience for idolatry. They had problems politically and religiously, but mainly they were not being obedient to God. And also Deuteronomy 28, verse 15, Deuteronomy 28:15, it says, it has the cause for disobedience, the repercussions for disobedience. And it says in that 15th verse, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. And after that, it has a list of the curses and the punishment for idolatry, for worshiping idol gods and not being obedient to the God, our Creator. Like I said, there was a lot of child sacrifice. There was a lot of child sacrifice going on. Unfortunately, it became a part of many religious systems. Unfortunately, today it's called abortion. It's called abortion, as it was referred to as passing one's seed through the fire, and that's also noted in Leviticus 18, verse 21, meaning putting babies and children into the fire. 2 Chronicles 28:3, it tells of King Ahaz of Judah, who is condemned for sacrificing his son, for passing his son through the fire, to sacrificing his son. And it's crucial to know that these practices were not commanded by God, not by God, the Creator. Jeremiah 7:21, it says that they built high places in Tapeth, which is in the valley of Hinnom, to burn their sons and their daughters in the fire. This was called child sacrifice. And God said that he did not command them, and he did not command them to do this, and it never even came to mind for him to do this, to give them authority to do this. And certainly not the prophets didn't tell them to sacrifice their children either. But there was something that influenced them to do what they did. Failure to listen to prophetic warnings by the prophets, Jeremiah and Ezekiel. So the people did not repent. They did not repent of their sins, and they did not turn back to the Creator. They were sinning, and they didn't care. They didn't care. Being in captivity for 7 years had caused the people to lose hope. You know, there's sometimes we get in a situation where we feel like we are so down and that there is no way out. But there's always a way out. And here in Isaiah 40, he makes a shift in the tone from warnings to comfort and bless it. This majestic 40th chapter here, Isaiah, he sets the stage for the promise of the Creator's enduring love and incomparable power and caring and nature that God has for his people and that he has for his children. Isaiah 1:1. Isaiah 1:1, it tells us that this is the vision of Isaiah, a message to a rebellious people. Isaiah, if you look back at Isaiah 1:1, it says it was a vision concerning Judah and Jerusalem, a vision of the Creator given to a prophet about a vision of the kingdom, a vision of the kingdom that is inside of us, that is inside of you, that is inside of all of us. A vision of the Creator to a prophet about a vision of the kingdom that is in you. That holy, that secret place that is within you, that is within all of us. That power that is within all of us. That place is the right side of your brain, the right side of the hemisphere of your brain, to be exact. So as you study the book of Isaiah, if you first do a word search of the names of these kings in Judah, in that first verse, in Isaiah 1:1, you'll also see that at verse 5, it says that the whole head is sick and the whole heart is faint. It references the body. It references your body as well. So if you want this book if you want the Bible to be a geography book, okay, it can be that too. If you want this book to be a history book, okay, it can be a history book too. But you got to understand that from a spiritual point of view, it's not just BIBLE, basic instructions before leaving Earth, but it has physical and especially spiritual implications. It has great spiritual implications as well. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 19 through 20, and 1 Corinthians 3, verses 16 through 17 says that your bodies are a temple of God. So you have to be careful of what you put in your body. So in our lesson today, Isaiah 40, verses 12 and 13, powerful passages, a couple of powerful verses. These verses are a part of a larger section from Isaiah, which is from, like I mentioned from the beginning, the book of comfort, that begins with the 40th chapter. In these verses, the prophet Isaiah, he reminds us of the greatness of our God. Isaiah reminds us of the greatness of our Creator, who has measured the perfect amount of water. It uses the imagery of God in that first verse there. It uses the imagery of God in that verse. It says, who, it asks the question, who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breadth of his hands, and marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust in the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scales and the hills in a balance? There is no one that can compare to have done this. We can't even imagine of someone doing this. Only God could have done this. Only a creator could have done this. And it shows the imagery of God being so big. Matter of fact, we can't imagine the size of God, because God is the universe. God is the universe. He is all in all. But the imagery of God here is showing him measuring the waters, putting the right amount of water on the earth, measuring it in his hands and placing it on the earth, as the creation tells us, marking off the heavens with the span. A span, back in those days, they used that unit of measurement I think it's from the tip of your finger to your thumb, but that was the length of measurement that they was using then. But think about it. Think about it. No one can fully explain the size of God. The Creator, he cannot be contained. He cannot be contained. No one has the physical brain capacity to fully describe God. God is the universe and beyond, beyond, and beyond. It says, holding the dust of the earth in a basket and weighing the mountains by scales. The Creator has placed the right amount of dust on this earth. He's placed the right amount and the right height, the width and the depth of mountains on earth. He's constructed earth in his own fashion, in his own way. It says, holding the dust of the earth in a basket and weighing the mountains with scales. These metaphors serve to emphasize the vastness, the greatness of God's creation, in contrast to his power. Even the book of Job, it described God as being the Creator, and he describes it in a very poetic and awe-inspiring way. He acknowledges that God is that source of everything that exists. He is the source where everything comes from, and that he has the power and the wisdom over all his creation. In Job 28 and 41, God, he challenges Job to answer a question about creation. God asked Job, where are you when I laid the foundations of the earth? When I set the boundaries, when I made the weather patterns, when he created the animals. So Job here is having a conversation with God. That's another lesson. That's another lesson. But one of the differences between the way Job describes God and how Isaiah described God in Isaiah 12 and 13 is that Job, he focuses on God's sovereignty and his incomparability. But yet both texts, however, underscores the wisdom and the power of God. That's what we're talking about today. Having faith in the power of God, trusting his existence, his character and promises, believing that he is always present, that he is always knowing, always powerful, and deeply invested in every aspect of our life. And he's invested in our well-being. So we should have that confidence, assurance of God's unseen reality. And it's not just about having more or less faith, because faith is something that we already have. Everybody has a certain amount of faith. Everybody has a certain amount of faith, but the key is to use it. And the key is to use it. Verse 13, it asks the question, who has directed or understood the Spirit of the Lord? Who has given God counsel, it says? Who has given God advice? No one. That's a rhetorical question. And it underscores the fact that God's wisdom is unsearchable. And God's decisions are made without the need for human advice. God doesn't need our advice. God does not need our advice, but yet the angels are supposedly jealous of us humans. Psalms 8 and 5 says, in original Hebrew text, it says, we are created lower than God. That's the Hebrew translation. But with the Greek translation, it states, God created man lower than angels. this 13th verse is also a part of a larger passage that it contrasts the greatness of God, comparing to idols that the people worship during their time of distress. The idols, the things that the idols were made of, the wood, the sticks, the stones, whatever they made idols out of. It was no comparison to God, the Creator. The idols could not compare to these. They could not compare. There was no comparison to these idols that man made and that these people worshiped during these times. They highlight one infinite wisdom and power of the Creator. This was affirming that the Creator is more capable. God, our Creator, is more capable in accomplishing his promises also. In Isaiah 40 and 25, Isaiah 40 and 25, you'll see the term Holy One. You see Holy One. It says, to whom will you compare me? He's asking that rhetorical question again. To whom will you compare me, or who is my equal? Says the Holy One. The Holy One is referring to God, the Creator. The verse says, to whom then will you liken? Some translations say, whom then will you like? In other words, who is like? Who is like our Creator? Who is like God? Whom is equal to? Who is on the same level of God? It says, the Holy One. The Bible says this is God speaking through the prophet Isaiah now. And he's asserting his uniqueness and his incomparability. The title, Holy One of Israel, is used in the Bible, and it refers to God, emphasizing his holiness, his greatness, his perfection, and his power. But the question is, who can compare to the Creator? Who is equal to the Creator? The importance of describing God. The importance is describing God as holy. It cannot be overshadowed. But Isaiah mentioned this at least 69 times throughout the book of Isaiah. It mentions the Holy One. When we look at verse 26, Isaiah, he invites his readers to look up to the sky. Say, look up to the sky. Say, lift up your eyes on high to see. Look up to the heavens. And he asks the question, who created all these? Who created all these? He who brings out the starry host one by one and calls forth each of them by name. So all the stars have a name. Who created all this? Who created all this? What is this saying? Each star has a name. Each star has a name. Today we call it astrology and horoscope. Matter of fact, some people govern their lives. They govern their days by astrology, by reading their horoscopes to see how the stars are going to align. Look at Psalms 147, verse 4 with me. 147, verse 4. It says, he telleth the number of the stars, he calleth them all by their names. He calleth them all by his name. Who has the power to place stars in a certain position? Verse 26 says, not one faileth, meaning that there are no stars that are out of place. So the Creator has strategically placed each star in our heavens and put them strategically, putting them in certain positions. No one else can do that. Only God, the Creator, can do this. Verse 27 also asks a question. It asks a question also. It asks a question. It says, why sayest thou, O Judah? He's talking to the people of Judah, the Israelites, the Hebrews, whoever you want to call them. O Jacob, the descendants of Jacob. Translated, it says, why do you complain, people of Israel? Why do you say that my way is hid from the Lord, and my judgment is passed over from my God? Why do you complain? Why do you say, Israel, that my way is hidden from the Lord? It says, my cause is disregarded by my God. It's believed that the people of Israel, they were feeling abandoned and overlooked by God. They believe that their cause and their pleas were not being heard by God. They believed that their ways were hidden from him, what they were going through. They didn't think that God knew what they were going through, and that their calls to him were not heard. However, this verse, it challenges their perspective and reminds them that God is not indifferent or unaware of their situation. He hears your call. God hears our call. He hears our pleas. So if it says, if one is properly connected to God, if one is properly connected to the universe, the Creator knows, he knows our vocal vibrations. He knows our voices. He hears us when he calls on him. Fast forward Isaiah 54, verse 8. Isaiah 54 and 8 says, in a little wrath I hid my face from thee for a moment, but with everlasting kindness will I have mercy on thee, saith the Lord, thy Redeemer. So he hears again our vocal vibration when we call on him, when our words go out to him. He hears our call. In fact, he's right there. He hears our call when we call on him. Isaiah 28, it says, it fainteth not. It says, he gives strength to the weary and increase the power of the weak. Neither is weary. So the Creator, God himself, the Creator, he does not get tired. He does not get tired. Even though Genesis states that the Creator rested. It said that he rested on the seventh day. He didn't rest because he was tired. He rested because he was finished with the creation. It was done. Again, that verse 28 says, do you not know? Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary. He will not grow tired and weary. He is from everlasting to everlasting. Psalms 90, verse 2. Psalms 90, verse 2. Psalms 90, verse 2, it says, before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hast formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. God has always been God. And he will always be God. He is the beginning and the end. That covers all time, because there's power in time. Time. God is time. time is so powerful until some people think that it becomes an illusion to believe that time does not exist. But if you can understand time, then you can understand the power of the Creator. First of all, you can't time God because he works in his own time. We cannot control time, but through our life, we can make adjustments to time. Listen to this. Even in relationships, you can't control the when, but you can adjust yourselves. Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1-8 says, to everything there is a time for every purpose under heaven. And what do we say? He's an on-time God. The Israelites were in the right place. They were in the right place at the right time when they were being chased by Pharaoh and the army, when they were being chased by by Pharaoh's army and the chariot. The Bible said that God gave Moses the power to part the Reed Sea, not the Red Sea, not the R-E-D-C, but the Reed Sea, as some historians wrote. Look at the power of time when Yeshua or Jesus, he appeared to the disciples multiple times in John 20, verses 19-20. He appeared to them in a locked room. When the room was locked, he appeared to the disciples when they were hiding in fear from the Jewish leaders. And also in Luke 24, verses 13-35, he suddenly appeared to those two men on the road to Emmaus. Isaiah, he writes in the 29th verse. He writes in the 29th verse. He says, he gives power to the faint and the weary. He gives power to the faint and the weary. This is the lesson that Jesus was trying to teach his disciples in Acts 1, verse 8. He tells them, but you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. And he said, you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and all of Judea and to the ends of the earth. Then there's Luke 9, 1-2, when he called the 12 together. He gave them power and authority over all demons and to heal diseases. But guess what? You have that same power. We have that same power. We have that same power that can cause every other power to bow down if we would just use it. That's faith. That's the faith that we have to do that with. We should have and use that power because Proverbs 18:21 says, death and life are in the power of the tongue. Those who love it will eat its fruits. Now, that's knowledge right there. It's good. It's good to read that, though. It's good to read that and to know that you have that power. But it means nothing if it's not applied. It means nothing if you don't use that. But when you speak kindness, encouragement and truth, when you speak kindness and encouragement and truth to someone, when you do that, we contribute to life because that's positive, but negative and hurtful words can lead to destruction. So we have to choose our words wisely. When you say thank, something as simple as that. When you say thank you, you send out not good energy, but you send out God energy. Because in Greek, the T and the H is theos. That's power. That's God power. And if you can tap into that power, you taps into that power when you say thank you, when you show gratitude, when you are grateful, when you show appreciation when someone does something to you. So it says that we should thank the Creator. We should thank Him for everything. We should thank God for all things, for the sunshine and the rain. First Thessalonians 5:18, it reads, it says, speak things into existence. So we have to speak positive things and get all that negative junk and delete those old junk files that are causing us to operate slowly because of corrupt information, causing our internal system, causing our spirit to drag. So just like our computers sometimes, we have to clean them up. We have to delete all those corrupt files and junk files. We have to clean it up sometimes. We have to reprogram, reboot, and renew our systems. That's the same goes for us. We have to reprogram, reboot, and renew our mind. And the thing about it is, you don't need a middleman. You don't need a preacher or a priest to pray for you. You should be praying for yourself. You should be praying for yourself. Pray. Matter of fact, pray for yourself and pray to yourself. That's called encouraging yourself. You have that power to speak those words into your being, into your existence, because you should have that faith to do that with, and the power to do that with. Your strength, and when you do that, your strength will be renewed. And what will happen? What will happen? It says, you shall mount up with wings as eagles. You shall run and not be weary. You'll be rejuvenated. You'll have that power, but you got to have that faith to believe that you have that power. It says you will walk and not faint. You have the power. You have the power in you. Scientists believe that the pineal gland, pineal, the pineal gland that's inside of us, it's inside of you. It's your connection to the Creator. All you have to do is get connected. Get connected. So I dare you, and I challenge you to study your self-approval. Research the pineal gland. Go back and study one verse. Isaiah 1:1. Watch how things will open up to you, and you'll be connected to that power of God. Let us close with a prayer. As we come to the end of this time together, we thank the Creator for the strength and wisdom. Renew our thoughts and fill us with your Spirit to live out the truth with wisdom and to apply them in our daily lives. We place our faith in the power that you have given us to carry us through every challenge, empower us to be bold witnesses. May your words and actions align with your word and reflect love and grace. Help us to make a difference in the lives of those we encounter. Remind us that you are with us. This is our prayer as we bless your holy name. And as always, this concludes our Sabbath school lesson for today. And as always, you get connected. Get connected. And you plug into that power that God has given each and every one of us. And this will enable you to continue to have a blessed life.